Welcome. Oh, welcome to the White Rabbit YouTube channel. In today's live video, we are to discuss the previous episode, sea, loch, and lake monsters. And I said that I would introduce three monsters in that video, in this video, and they are the Altumahu or Altumaha, also known as Alti to the locals. Uh, this one, okay, so it's a little bit interesting because everybody knows the Loch Ness monster, and some of the colonizers from Scotland moved to America, and they founded a town called Darien. That's right. And just nearby them, they have another lake monster, and this town was founded by the Scotland Highlanders in 1735. And the beast is 30 feet long with flippers like a seal, and it has a very long tail. It became known to the world in 1981 when a newspaper publisher named Larry Gwynn, reported on the sighting when he was fishing with his friend, uh, what's his name? Wilson. I think it's Steve Wilson. Anyway, this has been going on for hundreds of years and people are still seeing it now. People have seen small ones and big ones, which implies that there's a whole family or a whole bunch of them, because it's the second largest waterway in America after the Mississippi, and it connects to the Atlantic Ocean. There's lots of swamps and rivers and places humans don't go, so it's a perfect place for them to repopulate. The next one is Porphyrios, which is a really great story. So basically, Constantinople, now known as Istanbul, is on the Bosphorus Strait, and there was a huge whale that kept attacking all the ships, military ships, civilian ships. It didn't matter. It would just attack them. Um, so Constantinople in the 6th century, this one for sure existed. It was like recorded in all kinds of official reports, and it was especially important to the ruler of Constantinople because his wife, the Empress Theodora's, the Empress of the Roman Empire, and her husband was Justinian, and she, the Empress, did not care much for the capital, so she spent most of her time at the nearby town called Heron, where a small palace was built, and she could just be away from the big city noise, traffic, etc. But getting there was treacherous because they had to cross the Bosphorus, and the whale doesn't like to be bothered, and they don't want to attract the attention of Porphyrios. But the story continues. It is said that it swam in from the Atlantic and just lived in the Bosphorus for 50 years. It was 45 feet by 15 feet, or 14 meters by 4.5 meters. And it attacked ships indiscriminately. And it was given the nickname Porphyrios, which means purple boy. Make of that what you will. It was assumed to be either a sperm whale or extremely large orca, which are both known to be violent. And of course, all stories come to an end, and this one came to the end when Porphyrios was chasing some dolphins and beached itself. And then, of course, the locals are ecstatic because this beast that has been like attacking every kind of ship for the past 50 years has finally, almost killed itself. But So anyway, the villagers went to the beach with knives and axes, and they're trying to, like, kill it or take some meat, but the the skin is too thick. So they had to go back to town, and they don't want it to go back in the water for the high tide. So they they got some ropes and pulleys and tied it all up to horse and wagons, and then they pulled it up further inland, and then they were able to get some larger cutting utensils and cut the beast into pieces. It was a large party, and everyone was happy that the shipping lanes are now safe. And then the last one is the Lac Champlain monster. Lac Champlain is like three sides. I don't know how to do that, but it's basically New York, Vermont, and Canada. And it's a very large lake that was discovered by Samuel de Champlain, which is the guy that founded Quebec. And he also found this lake. And it has been stated that he saw the monster and did some reports about it about the local area when he did. But there are also reports that he was just describing fish or something, so it's a little confusing. But he was there, he named it, and now there's a monster up until this day that, because there have been more sightings. But anyway, so the Native Americans, they definitely knew it was there, same like the Ogopogo in Canada. So let's see, here's the Ogopogo in Canada and the Lac Champlain monster. Actually, it's not even labeled. Anyway, I'll add that later. And then, yeah, okay. And then there's this guy called Captain Crumb, and he was on his ska. That's right, on his ska, which is a small boat. And he reported seeing the Lac Champlain monster, known to locals as Champ. And he reported it to be half the length of a football field, which equals 187 feet. And then he also made some other interesting notes about the monster that no other people that have seen it in the afterwards reported seeing the same things he did. He said that there was a red ring around its neck, like the coloring, and he had the head of a seahorse and 3 teeth. And there was a star on the forehead. But every report after that, there have been no reports of the seahorse head, star on the forehead, or a red ring on the neck. So who knows? It was seen after that in 1873 by railroad workers, and then a county sheriff and a steamboat captain that reported running right into it, and it only almost capsized the steamboat. But then after that, that brought a lot of tourism to the area, and everybody is trying to see this sea monster, very similar to the Loch Ness monster. And then P.T. Barnum of Bailey Circus. P.T. Barnum of Bailey Circus, which was this enormous traveling circus company that is pretty well known. Well, was well known in the time, and then I think people know about it now because there have been movies about it and stuff. Anyway, he offered a $50,000 reward for the capture of this beast, but I don't see how anybody back in those days could capture a beast the size of half a football field, whether it be soccer or American football, because it wasn't clear on the size. But it was 187 feet long, so you could do the math if you wanted to. And then the photo that became well known to the world was in 1977. And then in 2005, there's a video of the beast. It was featured on the Discovery Channel, and there have been laws put into place both in the United States of America and in Canada to protect this beast. So anyway, I'm just gonna type something here, see if you guys can see that. And if anybody is wanting to ask questions, now would be a good time. Um, right now, I am working on the Tartaria video. I'm about half done getting it ready before filming. Uh, it mentions free energy and healing centers, meditation amplification centers. It talks about the ether and how to get the power from the atmosphere. They had the power to move objects with frequency. Of course, we have to mention the old world bells, acoustic resonance, and then the rosary windows in the churches and cathedrals that were repurposed buildings from the old world. Of course, the Great Wall of China is actually the Great Wall of Tartaria. Going into that, and then these buildings have been found not only in Asia but all over the world, even in Chicago and California. And then the World Fairs come in, where they build large structures for a very short amount of time, and then when it's all done, they burn it down or keep one or two buildings, but a way to cover up the past. And then the Tartarians, after the mud flood reset, and i.e. or just destruction of their lands, they became refugees going to anywhere they could, and a lot of them ended up in the east coast of America. But then they're used to having free energy, so then the U.S. government and the tycoons of the day, J.P. Morgan, etc., they set up in these found buildings a lot of rehabilitation psychiatric centers, because all these people that were saying that the free energy stuff, and they don't want that to be happening in America. They want to make money from selling gas and coal and whatever. And so they were all put in psychiatric institutes, and until they were brainwashed or legitimately lobotomized or whatever. And then, of course, while they're there, all their kids were taken away. And there were what were called as the orphan trains, which brought about low estimates were like 260, 320,000 up to 540,000 infants, children that were sent to the Midwest. And then they fixed the shortage of the farmers, the farmer helper shortage, and the Midwest was born. But anyway, that's on the very edge of the conspiracy. So, but anyway, in the Tartaria episode, I plan on addressing all the points that people talk about, just so that you have an idea of what's going on. And yeah, it's going to be good. I'm also just, because the Tartaria episode is going to be, it's the script is much longer than I anticipated, and I'm not ready to film it yet. So I plan on filming a shorter episode and then continuing to work on the Tartaria episode afterwards, because I gotta keep making my one episode a week. And then so when I was in Vienna, I filmed the basically introduction scene to the Suicide of Saul, which is a painting with dinosaurs in it. So I might be doing that, or I'll introduce dinosaurs that were living alongside humans after it should have been impossible. Like there's other ones. There's a mastodon, which is not a dinosaur, but there's a mastodon engraving in the bottom of Michigan Lake. There's a Stegosaurus on the wall at Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and a few more. Oh, of course, there's the Mokele Membe that was in the Sea, Loch, and Lake Monsters episode in the Congo. Not extinct dinosaur. There have been sightings of pterodactyls. Recently, I've seen some videos, and also during the Civil War in the United States, there were pictures of, like, the soldiers, and they're standing like three on each side, and they're holding up the wings of the pterodactyl that they killed. and there's a few more dinosaurs out there, so I'll track them down and include that either in the Suicide of Saul video or in a separate video. But I'm leaning towards putting them all together because people love not extinct dinosaurs that are still living in the world today. And dragons, their dragons are definitely going to have to be a separate episode, but dragons were real and are real. And the main reason that we haven't found many fossils is because they're like birds have hollow bones. So dragons were the same, so they decompose faster. The perfect conditions for capturing um, bones, fossils are very, very low. And then anyway, so I think that about does it for today. Unless anybody has some questions. Last week, some people told me that they tried to comment and they couldn't, and I should look into that, but I didn't. So sorry. If you have any comments or questions, just let me know in the Facebook group, the White Rabbit 4090. Just post on the page or send me a message. I'll be sure to get back to you, and or just leave a comment on the actual episode after it's been posted. I always reply. So that does it for today. Uncovering the truth, one conspiracy at a time. See you next week on the White Rabbit YouTube channel.